You know what? I cannot complain about I'm not as young as I used to be, especially after last night over in Noblesville, Indiana at the REO Speedwagon concert. My goodness. Well, not only REO, but it was Train and REO. And if you guys are familiar with Train, I've been following them with my wife here for a few years. We've gone to a few Train concerts over in Noblesville, Indiana. We usually make that pilgrimage over there about once every 2 years, and this time it was extra special because my favorite band, rock and roll band, REO Speedwagon, was teamed up with on this tour with, Train. There was a question, who would lead off for who? Well, REO led off for Train. I don't know if they're switching it up on the road. Obviously, Train has an amazing following. They're a little newer band. They're not quite as many decades in the scene as REO. I guess, like I said, I'm not going to complain about I'm not as young as I used to be because boy, it was a cool concert. Yes, I did partake in a few adult beverages. I had a couple beers and my wife will tell you that was more than a couple. I hope she doesn't report exactly how much, but when you're paying $13 for a beer, uh, you kind of like to when your wife buys one and she only takes a couple sips. I had to, I had to help her out. I had to finish her beer. I wasn't planning on it. By that time, I was already drinking Liquid Death. Now, are you guys familiar with Liquid Death? Catchy marketing name. It's something that I became aware of out at the Tailgate and Tall Boys concert here in Bloomington, Illinois. Its first year, its inaugural year, and they had pallets and pallets and pallets of Liquid Death. I'm like, Liquid Death? Oh my gosh, that's a terrible name. And people are going to be drinking that. And well, it's basically bottled water in a can. It's canned water. And yes, Liquid Death is a great name because ultimately staying hydrated is important. You know, it's the opposite of the title Liquid Death. It's actually liquid life, but catchy as it is, it works. But yours truly did probably drink a few more ounces of beer than he's accustomed to. My rule of thumb is it's 2 beers. I'm a 2 beer guy. I don't know about you. 2 beers is about all I can really handle. And last night it was not 2 beer. I'm kind of sounding like another commentator, opinionator, Dan Bongino, when he does his weekend review. I don't even want to start to try to keep up with the Dan Bongino on his weekend activities because I am the biggest lightweight, always have been. Don't drink to get drunk. I drink to because I enjoy craft beer. I've told you that many times. I just enjoy it. Thanks, Chris. Chris is already chiming in with the Go Cubbies. You're right. Got the Cubbies hat on. Victory. Boy, we now went out and took a few from Baltimore. Amanda, there she is. Thanks, Amanda. Is she saying, oh, did I get it clicked on there? Hey, guys. What happened? What's happening here? Hey, guys. Well, speaking of hey, guys, let me get the other hey guy. But I want to get back to Kevin Cronin, 72 years of age. Ryan.
Hey,
There he is. Ryan Mac Show. 72 years of age, and he is, I mean, rocking it. It's just it's beyond it's a show. It truly is. So if you get an opportunity to see REO touring with Train, go out and see him. I'm going to play a little bit. My wife put it up on her Facebook page.
hey,
It just it just is about as cool of a thing as possible that you can see when you see somebody that will turn 73 this October.
mm,
So here's a little bit of Kevin Cronin last night, Noblesville, singing a little bit of one of his big 72. Watch this big kick here. And he's nonstop, cool as it gets.
yeah.
Like I said, if you get a chance, go out, see Kevin and REO Speedwagon. Now, their band has been around for so long that some of the guys, like last year, we happened to be at the concert when they just replaced the was replaced who a gentleman who had been touring for 55 years. That's a
Mm,
couple years
5
younger
years.
than myself. 55 years. I'm 60 years of age. To think that he was on the road traveling, touring for 55 years. He wanted to be a grandpa. He had grandkids, and he said, "At some point, you gotta hang it up." So he did, and they were able to, get a, new keyboardist who was formerly with Rick Springfield of the General Hospital fame, Rick Springfield.
Do you think that he could tell Joe Biden to just hang it up and know when to hang it up?
Well, so you're still in my thunder because I know that the title of the show, Ryan, is "The Dems Have No Other Path to Victory Than Cheating." Yes, you've gotta know when to hold, when to fold, and when to run away, and I definitely wanna get to that because I think it's important that we cover it because Joe is, according to the media, up until the debate, he was mentally fit. There was nothing wrong with Joe. In fact, people were everyone, the who's who in the Democrat Party were saying that Joe is sharp. He's on top of, well, they were all repeating the same talking points because that's
Yeah,
what they have. They get the
yeah,
memos, the inner circle communication. Don't dare fall out of favor with the Democrat Party. My assumption is that will not be good for you. You might get, what's the old saying, that you get Clintoned. Is
yeah,
that what it is?
yeah, Hillary,
You got Hillary, you got Clinton, you sleep
Obama,
with
yeah,
the show.
Obama's top chef drowned in the lake.
But I wanna finish this with the REO. I mean, the drummer's 67 and plays for 2 hours. I mean, it's fascinating. The
Yeah, it's awesome.
lead guitarist, he's like the young guy. He was the young guy in the band, and he had been with them since 1989. I mean, it's but
I would
so
too.
so a lot of the guys are they're ready, they're ready to stop, and Kevin's just not ready to stop. And I get it. If I were still able at 72 to basically bop around a stage singing the songs that,
Mhm.
hundreds of songs that he has, and to play the guitar, and literally, he's enjoying himself. It's not a
Yeah,
job for him because, as
yeah.
the old saying goes, if you do what you love, if you're doing something
Yep.
you never loved, you never were working, and
Mhm.
it doesn't look like work for him. And I'm sure when it gets to that point that Kevin himself will say, "Yeah, it's time for REO to stop." I know that the Rolling Stones are supposedly doing their final, is this like the 12th final farewell tour, REO has some merchandise, and one of the, obviously, concert T-shirts, but one of their concert T-shirts says something to the effect that, rock and roll, you'll live forever, you're forever young, you live forever. And there's something to be said for that. You're young at heart, you're young in mind, your body, soul, especially if you're doing something that is beneficial to humanity.
Yeah,
And I believe
absolutely.
what so here's the coolest part, and I want to get to this before we get on to with the
Mhm.
rest. Kevin Cronin, and I don't know if I have it, my wife might have shared it on her Facebook page. I know that she sent it to me in a text form earlier. But Kevin Cronin had a picture or a T-shirt with the shroud of Jesus on it. I thought that was like the coolest thing, and I don't know how many people noticed that last night, but the place was, there was probably close to 20,000 people there last night. The
Yeah,
shroud of Jesus on the front of his T-shirt, and that speaks volume because here's a man who I know through life has been, been on his own faith journey, his own spiritual journey. I know that he talks about it in at least last year he did his concert in Springfield at the state fair. That he was in Israel, he's kind of journeying around with his guitar, and he came up with a song, and he actually played that song last year when we were at the state fair. So he's a man of deep faith. It's really cool, and especially for everyone. Oh, my wife put it in the there we go. See, what would I do without her? Rock and roll will keep you young forever. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Rock and roll will keep you young forever, and it's obviously kept Kevin Cronin out there going, so if you get a this is obviously a plug. I'm not getting any kickbacks from REO Speedwagon. I might be donning on my new REO Speedwagon concert T-shirt show. I purchased one, my wife purchased one too. She purchased the Train, T-shirt, I purchased REO. Like I said, I don't know about you, but I'm hearing something in studio here, which I usually don't hear anything. It sounds like it's a downpour outside. Can somebody confirm that? Are we getting rain out there? When I came in, it was as sunny as could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
mean, it's getting almost
dry and sunny out here.
dry and sunny where you're at. Well, you're
Yep.
north of us, so
Yep.
I guess this is when they talk about pop-up thunderstorms or
Yeah.
scattered thunderstorms. This is what they're meaning. We're getting a scattered thunderstorm right now because
There
it's
you go.
coming through loud and clear. I mean, I'm at the age. I'm not quite 80, 81 years old, the Joe Biden generation, but I do get distracted by little things in studio. But go out, see REO. It's well worth the time, especially if there's anywhere near you. I was telling Ryan, my wife and I are scheduled to see them 3 times this summer. It's kinda like you talk about groupies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're trying to stay young forever too, keep you young forever. Plus, I have an opportunity to wear my T-shirt to all
Yeah.
3 of those concerts. So, anyhow, what we've got going on, and this is why the title of the show today is "The Dems Have No Other Path to Victory Than Cheating." We know that this House bill has now passed. It's in the Senate, according to Ryan. He gave me some insight to it. He my Mark Lee, Craig Lee. I'll get there.
Mike.
What's Lee's
Mike
Mike
Lee,
Lee. Mike Lee.
senator from
Thank you.
Utah. Yeah.
Well,
I
when
saw a tweet from him that he was putting it up on the floor.
yeah, and when you go to high school with a guy named Mark League and you got a guy in real estate in your local community named Greg League, you can't get any of the Lees right. At
Yeah.
least I didn't call him General Lee. And I
Right.
have no idea what General Lee's first name was, but Mike Lee called the bill, right? Put the bill up, wants to vote in on the Senate for will it pass? Will there be 10 senators that jump on board from the opposition side?
Mhm.
I don't know. There are some contested races in the Senate where you're having to fight in favor. And once again, this bill is strictly saying what we already know to be the fact.
Right. Yeah.
Federal law prohibits illegal immigrants, non citizens, not only illegal, but non citizens from voting. You can register to vote, you just can't actually vote.
Yeah.
So it's a bill basically reinforcing what we already know that non citizens can't be voting because the path to victory for the Dems unequivocally is to steal the election again, to cheat. And
Mhm.
this bill is kind of a flare. We're setting up a tracer, right?
Yeah.
Saying, we're watching you. You might feel like Michael Jackson. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Well, we know that
Yeah.
you cheated in 2016. We know that you cheated in 2020, and we know you're planning on cheating in
Yeah, that's
2024.
all they have. They can't beat somebody fairly in an election. What in 2000 and 2016 and then 2024 or 2022 when Stacey Abrams won, didn't win. She said she won, but she thought she was governor twice. They're election deniers except when they win, it's the most secure election on the planet. But when they lose, it needs to come crashing down. The institutions are racist. They're voter suppression. That's why we lost. And I'm a black female. That's why I lost. I just the excuses never end when they lose, but when they win, it is nope. You can't question it. You're not allowed to question anything. That's not what we are as a society, as a country. You're allowed to have an opinion. The official act of Donald Trump in his duties as president was allowed to question election results. Even if he was wrong, if there's no evidence of concrete that it had enough to change the election results, he's allowed to have the opinion that something didn't seem right. You can't criminalize a man for having an opinion in elections when your entire party platform has been ever since you lost that the election was stolen or it was Russian influence.
Well, let's just be clear. And I know you guys already know this, and I'm trying to bring the energy level up, but it was obviously a beautiful concert last night. I enjoyed being away from Illinois and in a free state of Indiana. So I want to bring the energy because it is the critical thing that we need to realize right now is we have an entire division an entire party within our country that has done everything they can. It's fascinating. Whenever they start telling me that Trump was responsible for something, it's almost like the little boy that cried wolf, right? At some point, you can't even take any of these people serious. And here's a perfect example of this. I want to get this on because this is what they were. I mean, I don't know how they refute this because this is them. This is
He is
Mayorkas.
sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
This guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
This is a man that's on his game.
There's not a problem. He's sharp. He's fit. He's always
About 180 years old.
Probing.
Who knows what's going on.
This guy's tough. He's smart.
Because I lost one of my screens, Ryan, as you can tell.
Oh, man.
This happens to me sometimes. I gotta join my screen.
Janet
together.
Yellen, who is about 200 years old, telling us that Joe Biden's just fine. He is fine. I'm also his age and maybe older. He's fine. Oh my gosh. Maxine Waters looks like she's past her prime, clearly. Held up by formaldehyde.
Well, yeah.
Nancy Pelosi, who her dentures
my
are too
point-
big for her mouth and she's drunk.
Well, and that's the reason I play that is that this is the best of the best that they have. JB
Yeah.
Pritzker's in that video. I mean,
Yeah.
these folks, every last one of them, whatever they're a part of, because it's just not politics. I love it when people say, well, it's just politics. No, this isn't politics. These
no.
folks set out to destroy the United States of America. And under the cover of constantly saying that Trump is trying to ruin democracy. But don't worry, democracy isn't what you believe or what they believe democracy is. What they believe democracy is government control, governed by the majority, governed by actually those who are in power rather than by the people. This is, I know this might sound redundant because we were talking too about where are we at right now in this cycle of the campaign, because something's going to happen. And it's going to happen quickly. No, I don't believe that they're going to move Joe out right now. I think they're trying to basically, when everybody's watching you, it's kind of like when you're playing cards or Catan or any board game, and you know that the end is near. And everybody is watching how you're going to try to do the end game, and Joe has no end game right now. And the Democrats, bless Trump's heart with the last couple weeks, just lay low, go to rallies and say, this is who Joe is. This is who Joe has been.
Yeah. Well, and you hid him during his campaign in 2020, right? You hid him in the basement. He didn't campaign. Same thing with Hillary. She didn't campaign towards the end and she lost. Joe Biden was in the basement in 2020 and he won and he got 81 million votes, although I'd hardly believe that he could fill a popsicle stick. But he got 81 million votes basically sitting in the basement. And now they're pushing him out there in the media daily to see if he can recover from the debate. Now, for months and for 3.5 years, they told you he was sharp as a tack, as we saw in those clips, and that he was mentally fine. And that any Republican video jumping on him would be either Republican pounce or a cheap fake, which I don't know how that's a term now because it usually was called deep fake, but now it's a cheap fake. But when you had 50 million people watch him live brain fart on the debate stage, and now they can't retract it. They can't fix it. They can't spin it as Trump's fault because Trump let him speak and exposed himself. And now you have the NATO summit he's hosting. He botched it there. And you have top Democrats in a party going behind closed doors. I don't know what we're doing. Where do we go?
Tonight. Is this for tonight? Am I reading?
Yeah, this is his big boy press conference they've been prepping him for after the NATO. Yeah, so he has a NATO summit. He botches that. He can't speak clearly in that one. Now you're going to shove him out there by himself to answer questions. He's not going to be able to speak clearly then either. So if I'm the Democrat Party, you're kind of in the middle of a rock and a hard place. You don't want to hide him because you know he's frail, but you also don't want to put him out in public because you know he's brain dead. He can't do anything.
How this isn't. They should make this pay for view because this could generate some money for the Biden campaign, or at least who maybe you don't have to worry about the $100 million that's in play if Joe were not the nominee any longer. But
Right.
this could be a great pay-per-view event. I mean, Biden's high stakes. I love the headline for it through
He's getting
Gateway
the
Pundit.
juice box.
Biden's high stakes big boy press conference pushed back at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Tune in, get the popcorn. I mean, this is better than the Marvel movie. It's
Yeah,
almost.
this is the end game for him. I mean, they continue to roll him out here, and he gets steamrolled by his own sentences. It's getting worse. A couple years in, and the daily gaffes that we've been seeing, this isn't new to us. But what you're seeing more regularly ever since the debate is just a complete meltdown of his brain ever since. So it's getting worse. And you don't meet with the top neurologist in the country, renowned, 8 times over the course of 8 months, and tell me that's just a normal visit. That's
Yeah.
just a checkup. He's there for the president. He has a personal doctor
Well,
and he has specialists that come in for him. You can't go to the White House and on a visit and say, "Hey, can I just get some Tylenol?" Occasionally, you might be able to sneak in the doctor and get a Tylenol, but that doctor and those set of doctors are for him. So when they say, "Well, that was just because of the Parkinson's cure campaign we had," no, his brain is fried.
yeah. Well, but obviously, I think everybody who is tuned into this, because there are so many people, at least in my community, your community, Ryan, who drive aimlessly around from point A to point B,
Mhm.
starting off in the morning, who have checked out of politics. And these are the folks that
Yeah,
we're trying to bring back into the
yeah,
fold, because in order to make sure that Trump said it best, in to swamp the vote, too
yeah,
big to rig.
yeah,
And they know that. They know that there's a certain point and there's a threshold where they just can't cheat enough. I mean,
yeah.
the fact that Biden it recorded 81 million votes
He was
in
more popular than
2020.
Obama was at his height. There's no
He's
way.
more popular than any president, right? Is any president ever
Right.
received 81 million votes? I don't know. You
No,
guys in the chat, somebody might, Chris, do you know?
Trump
d-
broke that for an incumbent president, 74 million. There's no way Biden got 81 million votes.
So what I'm trying to say is, so we know what's lying ahead. That's why I want to keep this focused, because it's
Yeah.
easy to go off on tangents on Joe Biden, because we all know who Joe is now. The
Mhm.
world knows who Joe is. Anybody that is paying attention knows who Joe is.
Right. You bring it down to a local level, right? Like, what's important for you? Like, we ask these questions of our community gatherers. What's important to you? Well, I can't afford anything. Okay,
That's
well,
right.
we don't live in a border community, but we've got a governor who sure is fine with bringing illegals into our state and into his hotels. No problem. That's going to affect our communities too. We've got a rash of break-ins here in Gridley from up north, kids being dropped off and hanging around. It's starting to
The
affect
Metro
small.
of Gridley. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's
it's
gonna affect
starting in a small
everything is
town.
hitting us.
It's starting in a small town because there are enough people out there who have, this empathy and I think it's misguided empathy, because once
Yeah,
again, is it constructive? Is it really helping, or is it hurting? When you reward and when you prop up somebody, boy, it sounds like we're talking about Joe Biden. When you prop up another human being and you try to make something that foundationally isn't there, that's the problem with our entire country right now. It's not that we're not proud to be Americans. We're not proud of the country that we have, because we don't follow the precepts and the principles that the country was founded on, the
mhm,
morality, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. We've gone so far away from that. We've gone far away from, as we've said over and over, the foundation of who we are. We are a country built on faith. And that's why you see a resurgence of the 10 commandments into the educational system. Someone put a meme up the other day and they said, well, if the 10 commandments are in the classroom, to explain to me what's the difference between the 10 commandments being in the classroom and the gay pride flag. And I said, pretty simple. Couldn't help but come on. I said, one tells us how not to sin, the other is a sin.
mhm.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, yeah. That used to be a foundation in our education system was faith. kids and early on in the 19 or the 1800s were taught Bible classes in school, one room schoolhouses. They had the Bible in their classrooms. That
That's
was
right.
instrumental. And that
That's
here
right.
we are today. We are sitting with, is it bad enough yet?
Yep.
Well, if you don't like your kids being taught things that aren't true and that our sexual immorality is commonplace, is it bad enough? You can't afford things as it is. Middle class is eroding. You have
Yep.
schools teaching kids it's okay to be trans and that a man can be a woman and men can get pregnant and have periods. Where is this going? Is it bad
Yeah.
enough you have to change your vote and to change your
Yeah.
mind?
Yes.
Yeah, I get so frustrated.
The
People just
gender
don't.
reassignment,
Yeah, they don't care
thing.
enough.
That's
They
right.
think if it doesn't affect them, they're not going to worry about it. They're not going to vote. People are turned off from voting because they're just so sick of it.
But we've got to get to the people that, and this is a battle cry. This is a battle
Mhm.
plan. We've got to not. We have to stand up against that mindset,
Yeah.
and we have to tell people, yes, it does matter. Your
Mhm.
vote does matter,
Yeah.
because once again, if we know that the play, the end game is trying to get people who aren't legally registered vote as citizens of the United States to pick up ballots, because ultimately my wife Tanya and I have been running after this for a long time,
Mhm.
and that's ballots. Don't talk about votes. Votes are not ballots. Ballots are votes.
Mhm.
And ballots can, eventually you just have to attach a person with a ballot. And whether that person, what their criteria is, who they are, an address, a signature. It doesn't matter if they're inactive as a voter, whether they're a legal resident of the United States of America, or a legal resident, a legal citizen of the United States of America. They can, of course, be a legal resident of the United States of America and not be a
Mhm.
citizen. But this is the plight. This is the play. Once again, they absolutely no path forward at this point. They don't have a candidate, and at this point, it doesn't matter who they put in there. You tell me Michelle Obama, okay, whatever. It's broken. It's broken, and the world has seen how broken it was, and they
Mhm.
can't backpedal fast enough.
Yeah.
That's why they're all kind of ganging up the old pile-on. I love it when the news media would come out, the newscasters is what I tried saying. I'm sounding like I'm having a Joe Biden moment. I can't get with my words out. But the newscasters, the news media, they were
Yeah.
all basically at one time saying, this is a Republican pounce. This is a
Yeah.
cheap fake. The
Yeah.
Republicans are pouncing. They constantly are pouncing. And now
Now they're
that
asking
pounce,
questions.
well, they're asking questions, but they're pouncing on Joe, right?
Not
They're
for some
really,
righteous play, right? We all know that they're doing it not for some righteous reason for journalism. They're doing it because they want to retain power. So
yep.
whoever can be placed in that holding spot to retain power for Democrats, they're going to be all in. They're sharks in the water. That's who they are.
So let's walk through that a little bit before we end the
Yep.
show today. All right. So Ryan, you had mentioned we know that they're going to try to stuff the ballot box. They're starting to put the drop boxes out there right now. You're going to
Mhm.
see what's her name down in Georgia, Freeman, whatever her name is. What's her first name? It's a crazy little name. But you're going to see these antics of after hour things
Yeah,
happening,
it's going to come
truckload,
back.
and we're going to be prepared. We're going to have poll watchers. We're encouraging everyone out there. If you're not doing something during the election season as a hobby, then take on poll watching as a hobby. But we need you. Well, first of all, give up whatever you're doing, because there's nothing more important. We need every able-bodied person to be either an election judge or a poll watcher. We need you
Mhm.
involved in the process of making calls, encouraging people to get out to vote, helping pick up people's ballots, because once again, if the Dems can pick up ballots and put them in drop boxes or take them to election authorities, you can also be a part of making sure that votes and voters are getting to the polling place, but more importantly, that their ballots are being counted. So we've got that covered. As far as Joe Biden, he absolutely has control of the White House and the nomination for the Democrats.
Mhm.
There's nothing going to change. Even I don't believe big donors are going to drop out to the point where he's going to hang it up because they know, well, that's not would they buy him out of the position? Biden loves money, he loves power, but I think he loves power more
Yeah.
than the money because the
Yeah.
power has brought him the money. So I don't think he wants to just concede and take a lump sum buyout by the
Well,
major donors.
and they're locked to this campaign of Harris and Biden financially.
Yes.
If he does, I think we talked about it last week or maybe even Tuesday. There's only like $2,000 that they can unlock to Kamala if he
yes.
doesn't accept the nomination, and they're locked to that campaign only.
Well, it's actually Kamala and Joe. So
Right. Like
so
if something, if I can't remember where I heard it, but it
well,
was like
Kamala
there's
because
hundreds of
she's on
millions
the
of dollars,
that's
yeah,
right.
but
Kamala
there's
because
only
she's on the
2,000.
ticket.
Yeah, so we
Kamala
locked
because
they're
she's
locked to
on the
her. So if it's not Biden, they are locked onto her, and now she's the one tied to all the policies. It's
And-
very rare that vice presidents go on to be president. So I'm not really sure where she gets this entitlement that she deserves a shot at being president. That's not a assured thing. But Democrat Party is all purposes screwed right now because they're tied to these two knuckleheads.
Well, and so the delegates
Yeah.
who Joe controls, the
Mm-hmm.
delegates, that's how primaries work. Joe was
Right.
the one who won those delegates. Those delegates can't just be given away without
Right.
Joe's approval.
Right.
And
And how is that fair? How's that democratic to the voters that actually supported Joe during the primary, about 95%? How is that
well,
democratic to them? Like you're giving your votes away. They voted for you.
yeah.
So they're really stuck.
And once again, I believe for the most part, everyone who voted to put Joe Biden back into the White House in 2024 for a primary,
Mm-hmm.
they knowingly realized that Joe has had issues. And
They're all complicit.
yeah, they're complicit. They're his voters. I mean, because of the fever of what their ultimate ideology tells them to do, and where they want to go, and where they believe the country should go, and what the country should become, and the Green New Deal, and everything else that goes with that. Yeah, they bear some of the responsibility, but it's their votes that have put Joe where he's at now. So coming out of that, I don't believe Joe Biden is going to pull out of the race. I don't think as I said earlier, something I've heard it said many times, nobody wishes harm to anybody. I don't wish harm to Joe Biden. I know Ryan doesn't, but Joe Biden, if he were to have some crazy accident, then yes, all of this could move forward. And I hope that the Democrat Party isn't desperate enough to do something crazy where they take Joe out.
Yeah.
But I can't put it past him because they tried to take President Trump out.
Yeah, and they're still doing it. Chuck Schumer just recently announced that he was going to put forth legislation to deem his questioning of the election in 2020 an unofficial act, so they can strip him from immunity. This is the party leadership.
Pritzker,
So
worried
this
about the
is
presidential race. Okay.
yeah. So
Thanks, JB.
putting this spin on this and talking about leadership of the party or even just candidates in general that might have a future, they're actually worried now too. Like, what do they do? And here is JB Pritzker caught on one of the events in Illinois recently on a hot mic, literally almost crapping himself.
JB.
More
No,
than
of course isn't
60% from independent sellers. Like to meet
Hey,
them.
they're selling wigs.
Call. You got tangled up with buys.
Man,
She turned to Amazon to help with shipping and logistics.
can't even watch the videos on it anymore.
I don't like where we are.
I don't like where we are.
Oh, JB,
Some people suggest it.
what don't you like about it?
Yeah, so he is now worried.
Yeah.
He
Well,
just supported them wholeheartedly. He is
well,
not me.
somebody makes a good point, and I know what they're talking about is hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
JB Pritzker can bypass Kamala and Joe tomorrow.
Oh, easily.
He has enough to, whether it was Bloomberg or any other billionaire
Yeah.
that was in there. He could self-fund his account.
Yeah.
That's
He
how
wouldn't
JB's.
need the war chest that they would be locked to. He could easily do it. Just give
So
me the delegates.
so those are basically the options,
Yeah.
obviously.
And it's not
And
Gavin Newsom. He's unelectable. It's not
no,
Hillary Clinton. It's not Big Mike. It's not Pete Buttigieg. They don't have a bench. We talk about
no.
this all the time, building a bench of candidates. The Republicans, yes, they have some issues with some of their candidates, but look at the long list of candidates that could be a really good president. Even if they're not as conservative as some of the policies in the past, they are really good candidates. The Democrats don't have anybody. Their policies don't work, but they'll double down on it.
Well, and that's where we're at this particular time. And as far as whether it's JB Pritzker who is put in at some point because he can truly command, he has enough dollars to, if JB wanted to throw $1 billion into his campaign, he could do that. Now, granted, he would be a little less, heavy in the cash, but it would definitely create a void in Illinois. Could he still fund campaigns in Illinois if he's funding his presidential
Right.
aspirations, which is something that he was flat out asked by Darren Bailey during the gubernatorial debate if
Mhm.
he had any interest in fulfilling his entire second term as governor and putting his name in for president. Of course, JB. Imagine this. They lied. JB lied and said that his concern was
Mhm.
Illinois and this is where he was at, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yep, that's where we're at.
that's where we're at. And so keeping our heads on straight and realizing that what we have to do, and there's laser focused. We've got to be working on it now. I mean, the time is ticking away. The days are ticking away. I think we're under 80 days. In fact, I know we are to early voting in most states where people are going to start, they're going to start building it up, banking the vote. They talk about banking the vote. That's what they do. Well, the reason why they do that is it gives them an understanding of how much they need to cheat in
Yep.
order to steal the election. That's why to offset that and have people who obviously believe in the Constitution, the American way of life, a better economy, safer streets, affordable anything. We've got to get out and counteract that by early voting. You're going to get here, at least in the state of Illinois, shortly, you're going to get a notice from your county clerk basically telling you that you can get a mail in ballot. I encourage you to get a mail in ballot if that's the way you think you can, once again, mail it in. But if you don't mail it in, I prefer that you not give it to your postman or postwoman. I prefer you to actually take it down to your election authority, whether that would be, in McLean County. Here we have McLean County and the Bloomington Election Commission, but hand it to your election authority to make sure your vote is counted and get a receipt of that. They give you a receipt of that. But if you're not going to vote by mail, vote in person as soon
Yeah,
as you can.
I know
And
overwhelmingly
that will start in 80 days.
I don't know the numbers. We'd have to probably look them up sometime just as curiosity, but a lot of people in my area up here vote on the day of. I think overwhelmingly because they just either they don't want to go all the way to Bloomington to go to the mall or ISU. It's just, they don't
It's
go out of
it's
the way to go early,
it's
but they'll go on the day of.
traditionally uh, the Dems have done a much better job of vote by mail and early voting. Republicans tend to want to wait till the last day or the day of, being
Mhm.
traditionalists, and I agree. I want just one day of voting.
Yeah.
And as you just mentioned, Ryan, can it be an inconvenience? I guess if you look at it as an inconvenience to your life, we're talking what has created the current crisis we're in.
Mhm.
It's because people didn't show up at the ballot box.
Yep, they took advantage of the situations that they ignored. They said, "Well, it's not happening close to home, so I'll just ignore it and not, I'll vote, but I don't really know who I'm voting for. I'll just vote the names I like and know for the last 30 years." Well, unfortunately, you reap what you sow when you keep voting in the same people who take things away from you
Yeah.
and who pass at a state level, at least a local level, restrictions on, or blow up the election season. We used to have one day and you got that day off and you can vote and you know the results that night. And now you have 100 days of voting, and that's not something that should be expanded upon. But until you change the rules and vote people in who stop these rules from changing, you have to play their game. And unfortunately, you have to pivot your message to saying, you know what, get out and vote, not as often as you can, but as early as you can, so that you don't have to wait till the last minute for something to happen. You couldn't
The
get off work right away, or you were out late and forgot about it. Get it done out of the way so you don't have to worry about waiting last minute.
And also, there's plenty of, as I said earlier, we need election judges, we need poll watchers, we need precinct committee people, we need the ground game, we need people to activate. If you truly want to restore our country, restore our state,
Yep.
then you need to get involved. Speaking of having to defend yourself, here is
I saw this earlier today going through clips. This is great.
Kamala Harris, and she
She
is
also can't put a sentence together coherently.
well. Flashback to last year, 60 Minutes interviewer tells Kamala that Democrat donors don't support her to be Biden's replacement if needed. Here,
There's some
listen.
Democratic donors,
Mhm.
and they have told us that should something befall President Biden and he is not able to run,
Mhm.
that there would be a free for all for who would run as president. You are in the spot that would be unnatural for you to step up, but we're hearing from donors that they would not naturally fall into line. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to engage in that hypothetical because Joe Biden is very much alive and running for reelection. So
But you do know, I mean, that is a concern and a legitimate concern, I would say.
Hear from a lot of different people, a lot of different things. But let me just tell you, I'm focused on the job. I truly am. Our democracy is on the line, Bill. And I frankly, in my head, do not have time for parlor games when we have a president who is running for reelection.
When we have a president running for reelection. There you go. There you go. I kind of wanted to end today's show. I know we're kind of cutting out of here a little early, but if you caught the beginning of the show, you would know why, because yours truly is not hitting on all cylinders today.
Just the first two cylinders running.
Well, it's good to get away. It's good to be involved in something other than the craziness of what we've covered all day today. I believe that everybody needs a reprieve to enjoy the freedoms and what our country allows us, but we just can't take those for granted. Going to a concert and seeing as many people there last night, to realize that those freedoms are being eroded.
Yeah.
Things are taking place, and that's how it is. It's so subtle. I love
Where are we
doing
going to be in 8 to 10 years? Are we going to be able to do these things? Go to a concert on your own accord? Can we take those trips to Europe, when they're trying to get rid of that whole deal? Where are we going to be?
Well,
This is why we've said it.
a trip to anywhere,
50-minute cities. What does our future look like if we continue to let elections slide?
Well, I mean, the essence of it is this. Paul Harvey was right in 1965 when he put forth that wonderful little docu drama, If I Were the Devil. If I were the devil, I
Mhm.
wouldn't do anything different than what I've done.
Yeah.
And that resonates today. If I were the devil, how would I disrupt? And he would. If you have an opportunity, go and Google that. I did an entire show on it, utilizing the script that Paul had in there. And you talk about being so relevant to today's times and what is happening. As much as we enjoy it, we are meant to be out ahead of this so much further.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, because we have failed being one nation under God, indivisible,
Rome
with
fell.
liberty and, yes, justice for all.
And I fear that if we don't turn away from what Rome succumbed to, of their lavish lifestyle, their lust for women, and their drunkenness, where is the American empire? Where is the American experiment going to go? Are we on the same path?
Yeah. No, I mean, all of these things and we have to hold each other accountable. We have to hold one another accountable for everything. I'm not here to disparage, to run anybody
Oh,
down.
sure.
I don't
Mhm.
believe in hating anybody. I'm just going to ask you questions and find that most people that don't agree with me, they don't want to engage in conversation. Why?
Yep. Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask them questions. They
They
can
don't
ask
like
me.
talking. Yeah.
They can ask me questions. I might not have the answer,
Yeah.
and I might
Yeah.
say to them, "That's a good question."
That's what's
But
missed conversation. You can't
yeah,
have dialogue anymore.
well, yes, you can. You've got to initiate it. My wife and I were out walking yesterday. Gosh, no, it was yesterday. It was right before we took off to go to the concert. My wife is very avid at walking and praying. In fact, she always likes it when I'm walking and praying with her because that way, when praying out loud as you're walking, the neighbors don't think you're just the person that walks around and talks to themselves.
Yeah.
But we encountered a couple people along our walk, and you could tell that it was something that they really and I believe the two people we stopped and talked to have we have nothing in common when it comes to politics.
Mhm.
But when it comes to existing on
Yeah.
God's green earth,
Yep.
we have a lot in common. Both of them were walking dogs, which is really cool. We weren't walking our dogs, so therefore, walking Bella is a chore in of itself. At 135 pounds,
Mhm.
it's Bella. She's not a long walker, but we were out walking and engaging with these neighbors of ours, and it's fascinating because so much. My wife says this, and I know that I'm putting my wife up a lot today because that's where I get a lot of my material and my information and who I am. It's Tanya, but she
Mhm.
said so much more unites us than divides us. And
Yeah,
if we
she's
are
right.
truly one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, then we need to recapture that. Thank God last week was the 4th of July. Thank God we celebrated our nation's independence. Thank God we have the ability to celebrate that, to do what we do as Americans. I don't want to take it for granted. I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm going to continue to fight the good fight. I'm
Mhm.
asking you to fight the good fight. I know Ryan's involved in fighting the good fight now. He just recently became the precinct committee person in his community
Yep.
where there was an open seat. And so he's working that. I encourage you. Now, one of the ways you could definitely show your support is to get in contact with me or go out to the McLean County Republican Party website and sign up. A donation of $10 will get you a Trump 2024 Make America Great Again yard sign, corrugated plastic, nice little sign with a stake. Or if you are ambitious and would like a larger sign, you would like a 2x4, get in contact. Once again, that's not out on the site. Get in contact with me. If you would like a 4x4, if you really want to make your statement for Donald J. Trump, then that's $100 or wait, $75. $75 4x4. If you want a gigantic sign 4x8, a farmer, somebody that lives along the interstate, high visibility, where the ordinances or the city, town, village ordinances
Mhm.
allow the display of a sign. $100 for a 4x8 sign. This is the time. It's go time.
Yep.
Now, we gotta have to do a little housekeeping here because next week, Tuesday and Thursday, I am going to try to do the best I can to come live. They might be abbreviated, but I'm going to be at the RNC convention. So you get an opportunity to travel with me.
That's
We're going to
awesome.
go on a little adventure. I happen to plan on spending a lot of time standing in the live studio area where Dan Bongino is going to be broadcasting. And I'm going to be sitting there, kind of like a troll and, giving him thumbs up and trying just to, I'm hoping I can get a couple of these. I shared these tracks with you
Yeah.
last show
I need to give you
where
something so you get a signature for me too.
I get a signature for Ryan and possibly even tell Dan, I know that you would take a big chance to put Ryan and I
Yeah.
on your show to sub for you, but I think we could do it. I think we could pull it off. But at the very least, it's next man up. It's showing
Yep.
that there are more people out there truly trying to motivate people to be patriotic, to be all in for this country, because this is the time. There has you've seen it in recorded history that there are times when men and women are called upon to stand up, to bridge, to unite, to fight, and to actively go out and spread the word. The British are coming. No, the communists are coming. The socialists are coming. The neo-Marxists are coming. There are so many groups that are coming, and they're all coming at once. What can we do about it? We can start today by standing up and letting our message be heard and letting people know. One final thing, I didn't get to this, and I do want to make sure that you guys know it. The application process ended last night for the state chair of Illinois' Republican Party. Out of those 3 applicants, there were 3. Aaron Del Mar, he's currently on the Central States Committee. Kathy Salvi, she was a former Senate candidate to go up against Tammy Duckworth. She did that in 2022. And then finally, a gentleman named John Cabello. He is a state rep up from the Winnebago County area near Rockford. John also was the state director for Trump back in 2016 of Illinois. He was one of the first original people to be on the Trump train.
Nice.
John is a current delegate. As I said, he was a current state rep. So those are the 3 applicants who have put forth their names. John, side note, you haven't seen this, and it could be the same case for Kathy and for Aaron. John says he wants to make it an interim. He doesn't want it as a full-time position.
Right.
So something to be said for that. So if you live in Illinois, you could just go out to the Illinois Republican Party, look at the Central States Committee, look at who your representative is, give the call, and let your voice be heard. Let them know that these times are peril, and we have an election to win. We shouldn't really be focusing on the craziness of who our state party chair is,
Right.
because we need a leader. But we need a leader to make sure that we get Trump elected November 6th or November 5th. I should say I missed it by a day. That on November 6th,
Hopefully on the
Trump
6th, we'll know.
hopefully on the 6th, President Trump
Yeah.
will be the next president of the 47th president of the United States of America. Hey, I appreciate it. I didn't know if I'd even get to go that long for hanging with us. Always go out, social media, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. Like us, subscribe, share it. Go to the Ryan Mack Show on YouTube, on Rumble. Find Ryan. This is the content we need. Kat is back. If you didn't catch her, she was live this morning from the corn crib doing the Seats for Soldiers, which is a really cool thing because they raise
put
money.
3 flags on there this week. Yep.
And Ryan was out there putting some flags on. Catch Kat. She's on Cities 92 at 6 a.m. She goes from 6 to 8. Catch her. She's spreading the conservative message. We obviously hope to get Kat on the DPB show with Ryan.
She's
Mack.
not busy doing her other 17.
She's still trying to offboard. She's still writing for the Center Square. Kat hasn't given up her freelance writing. In fact, I think she's now trying to juggle too. She's still doing as much writing as she is now a 2-hour show. But the best part about it is her stuff is being picked up by the likes of John Solomon at Just the News. So she's getting national recognition. And hopefully we just continue to build the conservative voice here in Central Illinois and take it and unite with the North and the South and other like-minded people in making sure that the messages are getting out, the content is getting out. This is how we go about restoring the Republican Party. Because if we don't restore the Republican Party in Illinois, we're never going to be able to restore the state. Hey, thank you guys for being with me today. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. As I said, I'll be live from the Republican National Convention. I might even try to figure out how to get Ryan in there so he can ask questions and follow us around. So he'll be back in his studio, but I will be remote. But appreciate you guys. obviously, as I say, I love you. Jesus loves you more. Until next week, I just bid you guys all farewell.